Friday, 20th of February, 26th. This week's Parashat is Truma, and Truma speaks about the creation of the Mishkan. Mishkan, so it's not a political video now, because I'm not in the mood to. I want to speak about the Parasha and how it relates to the world we live in, because the Torah and the teachings of our ancestors are related, of course, to the world. So we're talking about Mishkan. So the Mishkan is, of course, destroyed because the destruction of the first and the second temple. And but we don't need. We are rabbinical Jews. We don't need a temple and a temple service, because the Talmud says the prayers have is a substitution for, not only a substitution for the korbanot, but they are on a higher spiritual level than the korbanot, because the tefillot are of course an individual practice and not a temple practice. And so the return to a temple service is not part of rabbinical Judaism. And that's what I wanted to say. But of course, the Torah still has a meaning. Yeah. So the very important sentence in the parasha is the sentence "Ve'asu li mikdash ve'shachachti betochem." And you shall make me a holy site, and I will live amongst them. So that means God lives among the people. That means amidst the people. That means in your heart, but not just necessarily, because it's related to other rabbinical teachings and philosophical teachings, of course. And it's related to the creation of the world in Bereshit. So they have two creational stories. I just speak about the one, this allegory talking about Gan Eden. And in Gan Eden, we see that, every day God creates different parts of the world. Not different parts, not Australia and then, Africa, but, tohu vabohu, and then he starts to create. Or it actually, yeah? And there is not a male God. In Semitic languages, you don't have a neutral possibility. You have female and masculine. It's in all Semitic languages. You don't. It's only actually in European languages. You also have a neutral. It comes from Latin. But so on the last day, God creates the humans, right? But every day before, on all the 5 days, in the evening, after he did it, or it did it, and it looks at his handiwork, and says it's good. Except when he creates humans. Our Rabbanim found that quite remarkable, because it is remarkable. So that means humans are not by nature good. It's a choice you make. And God can only dwell amongst you when you make the choice to be a good person. So there's, I think it's in Pirkei Avot, there's this sentence, everything is in the hand of God, except the will of people. That means all humans, have free will and are responsible and accountable for their deeds. This is in Judaism called the principle of personal responsibility. But of course, every human being has a personal responsibility. And when you look at our world, we live in a world that in which people refuse to be mature. Maturity means not that you reach a certain age, but that you actually grow up, become mature. And parents who don't teach the children to become mature people, that means accountability and responsibility, teach them nothing, actually. What we see in the world, and also in our history, Purim is also coming, they are evil people, right? But they choose to be evil. And the funny thing is, when you look, for example, at Agatha Christie novels, or if you read her autobiography, she also talks about it. Because when Agatha Christie lived, all these left-wing ideas were that criminals are not responsible for their deeds because it's genetical. It's not genetical to be a criminal. And she always wrote in a way that showed clearly, also she also states it in her autobiography, no, it's not genetical. I stand with the victims, and I don't stand with the perpetrators. And this is exactly what we have now in our world. The Iranian regime, who are mass murderers and main financiers of terrorism, were elected, I think yesterday, as a vice chair in the UN Council. Yesterday there was the meeting of Board of Peace. Trump announced how many billions of dollars he wants to spend on Gaza, rebuilding of Gaza. So, and the whole world rewards terrorists, criminals, for their crimes. They openly say they want to do a genocide on all Jewish people in the world. This is Islam, but honestly, also Christianity is concerned with massacring people who are not a member of their religion. Christians who are now offended, and I make this video for Jews and talk about the Parashat, but this is what has happened the whole time in history. Christianity is not a reformed religion. Europe is reformed, but the Enlightenment movement was a movement of the upper class, the nobility, and the educated bourgeoisie. So these people are enlightened, and these people are usually conservative, which means right-wing. Does it mean that somebody who is a Christian is automatically anti-Semite? No. A very good friend of mine is very Catholic, but he is right-wing. He was educated by his parents to be a good person and to respect others. So he is not anti-Semitic, though he is Christian. And there are also, of course, a good friend of mine, he's Muslim. But he was educated to be a good person. But the likelihood that a Muslim is, how shall I put it, becomes a bad person is higher, because this is what Islam teaches. That's the problem, with these people. World dominance, kill all Jews, kill all Christians, kill all non-Muslims, dominate women, suppress women. Rape is for them normal. That doesn't mean that every Muslim rapes. But this is the problem, and this is and left-wing ideologies that developed in Europe, and National Socialism, Communism, and Socialism are all one. It's not the same ideology, but it's left-wing ideology with many similarities. But in all three ideologies, you have the same structure. It's against elites. That means also, for example, intelligent people, educated people, people who actually make something out of their lives, or very educated or talented as an artist or a musician, and also, of course, against Jewish people, because they just it's the a-religious or secular version of Christianity, and you have even in Christian Europe these cardinal sins. It's called. It's envy, greed, and hate. But envy, greed, and hate is actually the main thing in left-wing ideologies. That's why they always say we need higher taxes, and we have to take the bad rich people. They exploit exploit others, and then we have to tax them higher because that's our right. But in fact, it's just theft. And I had many discussions with people like that. They don't see that it's unjust, and that people who earn a lot of money also work much more and have much more responsibilities. And so this is the world we live in. These people teach the children already not to become responsible and not to become accountable, and this is of course a problem. And usually these families are also dysfunctional. Yeah? For example, we have the halacha that you should love and honor your parents. You should love your father and mother, and you should honor your mother and father. But Anita Diamant said, she said something very important. You have to treat your children in a way that they can fulfill the halacha, this particular mitzvah, because the mitzvah, you should fulfill it. But when you have parents you can't honor and you can't love because the way they have treated you all your life, then of course, that's. But dysfunctional families are of course like that. When you have Islamic societies that where children see that their mothers are raped, or a father who sells his child into sex slavery, or even has a sex slave, what do they learn? This is a man who has no responsibility and no accountability. Especially the Islamic teaching nowadays. Before that, it was also in Christianity that men were allowed to rape women and also children. We ended that in Europe or in the Western world with the feminist movement. So hello, we are humans. And a man who thinks that he's more human than a woman is not a man, because everything that is not natural is actually sick. There is no sexism in nature. It doesn't exist among animals. There is also no homophobia among animals, but homosexuality also exists in animals. So this destruction idea also doesn't exist in the animal kingdom. That's only a human sickness, and it's connected to a patriarchal ideology. Wait. I also wanted to talk about why these people are not men. Because everything that is not natural doesn't is actually sick. There is no sexism in nature. It doesn't exist among animals, but homosexuality also exists in animals. So this destruction idea also doesn't exist in animal kingdom. That's only a human sickness, and it's connected to a patriarchal ideology. Wait. I also wanted to talk about why these people are not men. a man by nature, the nature, yeah, and many women will understand what I talk about now, is a real man is a provider and a protector. A sexist man is not a protector and a provider. Protect man, so the male of our species, but also of other species and mammals, are usually bigger than the female ones. Why? Because they should protect the women and the children. But sexist men attack women and children. More muscles, and they have not more muscles, they have bigger muscles because of a higher testosterone level. Doesn't give you the right over other people. It gives you an obligation towards weaker people. So a sexist man who rapes or attacks women or children in any way, but also animals, is not a masculine man. There are many feminists who say, oh, men are so bad, men are so bad. No, a really masculine man is not bad. It's a good person. But it's very rare to find a masculine man. The most, and it's connected to this accountability and responsibility and maturity. And I'm sure that most women know what I'm talking about. Even in a European society, I'm sure it's also the same in Australia and in Israel, in the US, we don't even talk about Muslims, right? And the most men are not mature because they are not forced to become mature. There are a few, but the most are not. And it's always the way, they're actually still little boys. So everything is the woman's fault, the woman's fault. You have men who have not only wives, they have even children. They say, oh, you have to make me a list, then I know what to do. Hey, you live there, you're the father of your child, what do you mean you don't know what to do? These are your children. How can it be that you don't know? And it's of course not taking the responsibility, not taking the accountability. And this exhausts the women. And when women are exhausted and unhappy, then they can turn quite nasty. And then it's of course the woman's fault. And there are many women who prefer to be a single in the Western world than to have a man like that, because it's another man. Because it's not a partner. It's a little child who wants a mother. And but in the same time wants to lead and be the man. But if you want to be the man, you have to be the man. And this is connected to how you treat your children, how you educate your children. And you see that also in the Islamic world, that it's even less. Yeah? They don't look in the mirror and say, what are my mistakes? What do we do wrong? It doesn't exist for them. Yeah? There's also usually no humor, because humor is connected to being able to laugh about yourself. And it's not about being perfect. This is what the most people don't understand. Being perfect doesn't exist when you're a human being. But at least try again and try again. Jews are not perfect. We have an ethical teaching. We try to adjust to this teaching. Of course we fail sometimes, because we are humans. Every human fails. That's normal. But in general, this is tshuva. You try to return again and again to yourself, to your inner godly self, to become a better person, because, that's what you, And remember also this, the prayer, the tefillah, Hashem, Ha-neshama she-natata tehora, betoda, tehora hi. The soul you've put inside me is pure. This is we are born poor. Actually, every child. Yeah? Even a child born in Gaza to terrorist parents is actually born poor. It's made into a terrorist. And this is the crime also of the UN and the whole world, and of course of the Islamic world. The baby is not born like that. The baby is not born to hate. It's made to hate. And from early childhood on. But we are actually born poor. It's just a Christian invention that there is a, how do they call it? That a child is already born with a sin. Yeah? This is a just purely Christian idea, which doesn't come from Judaism at all. So that's actually all I want to say. This is about the Mishkan in your heart, the Mishkan in your soul, and of course also the Mishkan in your brain. When we are as natural as possible, according to our nature, then we are actually poor, and then we have returned to God. So no ideologies, and yeah, sometimes it's a bit hard to keep that up in our world with all the hatred against us. And even if we will make a fun of it, and but it's also, we shouldn't rejoice in the fall of our enemies, because in principle, they're also humans, though they don't behave like that. They are responsible for their deeds, and they are accountable for their deeds, and we also have to hold them accountable, because for me nowadays, all this Islam is organized crime, but they have chosen to be like that. It's not that they're innocent. They are not innocent. And also the left-wing organizations, they are not innocent. They have chosen to be evil. And that's why we have to hold them accountable, but that doesn't mean we also turn evil. We have to defend ourselves. This is a principle, because we should live to serve our God, but that doesn't mean we are evil, but we are not. I mean, sometimes when I read posts from this she-natata people, because they claim to be religious, but they are not. They violate the Torah, because they also side with our enemies who want to genocide us. And you can be in silence. I know somebody who is who claims to be she-natata, but he would never attack Israel or the Jewish people openly. And in fact, it's more, he says he's not she-natata, but when you talk to him, he's on Israel's side, and of course wants Israel to strive and survive, and because we are all Am Yisrael, and he knows that you are not allowed to bring other Jews in danger. And running around in a Hasidic custom dress code doesn't make you a religious person. That also goes to these people, to these Hasidic groups. Not all Hasidim in Israel do that, but there are Hasidim in Israel who don't serve in the army, and also this week they made demonstrations again. Also female soldiers were attacked in Bnei Brak this week. You are not religious. Even the Torah clearly states, also the Talmud, you have to go to the army to defend your country. This is halacha. And attacking fellow Jews and other soldiers is against the halacha. Amen. Of course, they don't take it from me because I'm a woman, but sexism is not allowed in Judaism, by the way. So, Shabbat Shalom, and I hope you have a peaceful Shabbat, especially in Israel, as peaceful as possible. And let's pray for peace and the end of terror. And we also pray for the Persian people and the minorities in the Middle East who are also now under attack. Yeah, Erdogan, Al-Jolani, Khamenei, PLO, Fatah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and all their names, and also Muslim Brotherhood, also in Sudan. So we pray for all the minorities, and the Israelis and the Persians, and conference with headquarters. Right? Shabbat Shalom.